Hello, students. Welcome back again to the competition breaker. Students, I have completed the unit 1 of your G subject. Let's continue with the unit 2, and the chapter is India's Long Road, The Search for Prosperity by Vijay Joshi. It's the chapter 2 of your reading. Let's I start. Okay. In this chapter, we'll learn how the political journey in India's economy during the phase of 1947 to 2016. The phase of 1947 to 2016 was being divided into two periods on the basis of the growth rate and also the intervention of government. So the first phase is 1950 to 1980, and the second phase is 1980 to 2015. The first phase of 1950 to 1980 is a phase which is also known as old regime phase, or can say old system phase, where there was the slow growth rate, the policies, poverty, inequality was present in the economy, and also there was the heavy government intervention in the economy. The second phase is 1980 to 2015, where there was a shift in the economy, and also the government intervention was comparatively low in this phase, and there was a faster growth in the economy. Let's see the economic growth over a period of time with the help of this table. Like, it was a period in the period with the in period of 1900 to 1951, which is the period of before independence. At that time, the GDP was growing at 1%. Per capita growth was 0.2%, and after that, after the independence, this growth was increased to 3.5%, and the per capita income was also increased to 1.7%, and the investment percent was 11.5%, and the capital output ratio was 3.2%. This capital output ratio is the ratio of how well the economy is investing its capital. Okay, so it was just 3.2%. After that, after 1960s, like during the 1970s, this again there was a slight difference, slightly growth in the economy's GDP, like it becomes 4%, and the per capita income was also increased from 1.7 to 1.8% only. Again, there was a slightly increase in the investment too. It becomes 14.6%, and again, capital output ratio was 3.7%. In 1980s, like during the 1970s to 1980, this GDP again declined to 3%. The per capita income was also declined to 0.7%. The investment was 17.5%, and again the capital if output ratio was 5.8%. When in 1990 the reform has taken place, at that time the growth rate was increased to 5.8%. Per capita income was increased to 3.7%, and here the investment was increased at a very good number, like it becomes 20%, 24.3%. Likewise, after that in 2000, in 2000 to 2010, this was the this was the data, like the growth was growing at a high pace, like it was 7.3%. The per capita income was 5.7%, and the investment has increased to 31.3 to then 33%. So in there was a note, like, take this, the conclusion of the table. The first 3 decades after the independence was the period where the growth was slow, like it was just an average of 3.5%. There was low investment, and also the capital was there was an inefficient use of capital in the economy. The next phase, like 1980s to 2015, the growth was jumped to 6.2% on average, and there was a higher investment, and the capital was also invested on the right path. There was a better efficiency in the economy. Again, there was a peak growth of economy during the 2003 to 4 2003 to 2011, which was considered as the super fast growth. Like it was approximately 8.5 to 9% of growth. This is also the table which shows the growth rate as per the different phases. Let's see the what were the events which were happening during the 1950 to 1980s. The period of 1950s to 1980s is a period when the Jawaharlal Nehru was the leadership during the 1947 to 1964. After that, Indira Gandhi came into the existence for the period of 1966 to 1977, and for the period of 1980s to 84. Let's understand some key events and policies which happened in our economy. Like 1950, it was the period when our economy was started planning with the first 5 year plan, which was more focused on agriculture, and the second 5 year plan, which was started in 1956. Was the period of Nehru era, which you must have learned in the unit first. And at that time in 1957, there was also foreign exchange crisis was happened. And after that, in 1960s, Lal Bahadur Shastri was came into the existence, and Green Revolution was also taken place in this period only. When Indira, after there was a socialist policies of Indira Gandhi, which increased the controls and state ownership in the economy. In 1975 to 77, this was the phase when emergency was happened in the economy. After that, in 1977, Indira, the Congress was lost to the Janta Party, and the coalition was happened, but it was broken up because it was weak. And there were also the different challenges happening in the economy at that time, like droughts, oil price shocks. There was also rigid controls of government, which hampers the growth of Indian economy. Let's understand what was the reason of slow growth in the economy. Like it's the period of 1950 to 1980s, can say the period before the reforms. At that time, there was excessive control. The license Raj was happening. Everything was being controlled by government. There was a public sector dominance. Each and everything, like prices, production of the goods and services, each and everything was being controlled by the government. And also there was neglect of social sector, like health and education was being neglected by the people. Here also, the available, like due to the over regulation, like too many controls on prices, production, trade, which it brings the inefficiency in the economy. Due to the public sector, due to the government intervention, the state firms were poorly managed. It made the losses, corruptions were also happened in the economy, was happening in the economy. There was the neglect of social sector, which was creating the people who are unskilled and unhealthy. India was at that time focusing on self-reliance, which also cut off the Indian economy from the global trade and technology, which hampers the growth of the economy. Let's understand the social indicators too during the 1960 to 2010. It's the We'll compare with the different country like China, India, and South Korea. The life expectancy during the 1960, the India was having the life expectancy more than the China, but less than the South Korea. It was, you can see here, The infant mortality rate was s- also with the same pace, like it was less than China, but actually India was having less infant mortality rate, like it was 52. And you can see here, like China was having 64, South Korea was having 65. The adult literacy rate of in China was South Korea was high, and then the China was having literacy rate of 73%, and India was again, the literacy rate was less as compared to them. In when it comes to the health and education, you can see from the table, India was behind with the China and South Korea. So there was poor social indicators which limited the people's ability to earn and to be productive. Let's understand what was the how was the phase of 1980s and 2015. It's the phase of it's the second phase when the growth was faster, when there was a less government intervention. Okay, so let's see with the help of the events which were taken place after 1980s. Like 1980, after in 1980s, Indira Gandhi again returned to the leadership, and at that time also the economy was facing crisis, and the loan was taken from the IMF at that time. In 1984, Indira Gandhi's assassination was happened, and after that Rajiv Gandhi came into the existence, and he introduced the liberalization in 1980s. After that, in 1991, the reforms was taken place when there was high deficit in the economy. Other challenges like oil shocks were also going on, and then only the finance minister Manmohan Singh, under the PV Narasimha Rao, the 1991 reforms was taken place. Okay. So this at that time, the BJP and Congress government also continued the reforms with BJP Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, which led to happen privatization in the economy, and globalization also was happened. Let's see. Let's see the phase of economic reforms. Like during the 1980s, the reforms, the liberalization process was started, and it boosted the fiscal expansion of the economy with the growth rate of 5.6%. After that, when 1991 reforms was happened, it has bring the major changes in the economy, like it removes imports controls and tariffs. It ended the industrial licensing, the license raj system was being ended here, and also the foreign investment was open for the foreign countries. What was the result of this reform? The productivity of the country, the people of country was increased. New businesses was able to enter in our country, and the growth rate was like it move at the peak. It becomes 8.5% during the 2003 to 10 wala phase. Okay, again after that in 2011 to 14, the slowdown was happened due to the corruption being happened in the economy, due to the high inflation, the inflation rate was 10%. Let's see the what was the poverty and inequality of the economy at that time. Like at at that time the economy was facing poverty. We'll see with the help of the different phases, like in 1950 to 1960, the headcount poverty ratio was 52.7%, which means the over half of the population was poor. It remains the same. There was a very slight difference in 19 after the 10 years of it, like in 1970s it becomes 54.9%. there was no change. If you cannot, if you are not able to understand with the help of the percentage, you can see here with the help of number. Again, you can refer this table like in 1977 to 1978. This the number of poverty, this number of poverty was increasing, like it becomes from 2000 210 to 321. Again it was increased to 329, where you can say the poverty was something which was moving, it was increasing or it was being stable at that time, which was not good for our country. Again, after 1980s reforms, the poverty was declined to 36% according to the old method. When the Tendulkar method was came into existence and the calculation was made, it becomes 45.3%. Again, after 2000, it was the phase of like this. After 2004 to 5, again the decline of poverty was low. This decline was something the which the data was revealing, but it was not something like actual poverty number of poverty was not declining. It was due to the low poverty line. Our country was having low poverty line, that's why the number was being declined. Yes, I understand. Let's conclude it with the help of the notes. 1950 to 1980 was the period where 50% people were stayed above poverty, and 50% was below the poverty line. After 1980, when the liberalization process was started in the country, poverty fell, and it it has filled at a very large pace with in during the 2003 to 2010. There was regional disparities between the different regions, like northern eastern states, for example Bihar has higher poverty than the southern western states, for example Kerala. Let's understand the inequality of Indians at that time of different phases. There is a method called Gini coefficient. It is used to measure the inequality in the country. We'll understand with the help of the All India Gini coefficient. Like it will tell the total inequality present in the country, and also will look. We will see the rural inequality, the urban inequality. Okay. So during the 1950 to 1960, the inequality rate of all over the India was 35%. And when it comes to rural and urban, the urban inequality was more as compared to the rural one. Like it was 38%. Again, after that, 1973 to 74, like in 1970, during the 1975, the inequality was, it becomes low with the help of um, it was low from earlier, like it was 29.2%, but it was something it, it was not like it was according to the data, which might be misleading, and cannot say it was not the actual data. After that, in 1994 to 2005, again the trend was something mm, similar, but the difference was there. The urban inequality was started growing, like rural, it was being stable or it was declining at that time. Let's understand with the help of this, the inequality was increased from 30% from 1993 to 36% 2011, which means like the urban inequality, It has driven by the urban inequality and urban rural gaps. Let's see the what was the social sector challenges being present in the economy. There was our country was having growth, but India's health and education was still behind the other countries like China and Bangladesh. There was the various issues in the health sector, like there was high child malnutrition, low immunization, and poor sanitization present in the economy. When it comes to education, the literacy was improved to 80% by 2011, but secondary school enrollment was still low. There was a disparities in different groups of people, like backward states, poor people, and disadvantaged groups like SC and women were still facing the worst result of all these happenings. There was also, let's see the physical management of before the 1980s. The physical policies were cautious at that time. In 1980s, the deficits were like 5% to 10% of GDP, which was leading to the 1991 crisis. After 1991 reform, there was some improvement. The physical deficit was being declined, and also there was the spending on infrastructure and social sector was little bit like increased. So that's all for today, guys. It's the first this chapter has been completed it's the first chapter of unit 2. So thank you for watching my video.